Folks, let's talk about what happened in Texas. The Air Force admits that it failed to alert law enforcement about Devin Patrick Kelly's dark criminal past, enabling him to purchase an assault weapon and kill 26 worshipers inside First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs in Texas, just outside of San Antonio. The youngest victim was just 18 months old, but I'm sure the pro-lifers will say youngest victim was the unborn child when the pregnant woman was also killed. Here's what we know. He was issued a misconduct charge from the Air Force in 2014. In 2012, Kelly was court-martialed and convicted of domestic violence against his wife and child. On Sunday, apparently angry over an ongoing domestic dispute with his in-laws, who were members of the church, Kelly walked in, opened fire inside and outside of the small church. Now, here's the response from Trump.
We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it. But fortunately, somebody else had a gun that was shooting in the opposite direction. Otherwise, it would have been as bad as it was. It would have been much worse. But this is a mental health problem at the highest level.
Okay, first, that's a lie. Okay, no one was shooting inside of the church. They chased the guy after he left the church. So again, Trump lying again, this time in South Korea. Now, of course, his response is a stark contrast from what he said one day after 8 people were killed last month in New York in an ISIS-inspired attack in New York City.
We also have to come up with punishment that's far quicker and far greater than the punishment these animals are getting right now. So we want to immediately work with Congress on the diversity lottery program, on terminating it, getting rid of it.
So a guy who kills 8 people with a truck is an animal, but a white guy who kills 26 people in the church, it's mental illness. In the meantime, the Air Force has ordered a review of how the military has handled Kelly's conviction. Now, a few moments ago, Trump was at a news conference in South Korea, and he was asked about this. Listen to his response. Shelley, go to my iPad.
You've talked about wanting to put extreme vetting on people trying to come into the United States, but I wonder if you would consider extreme vetting for people trying to buy a gun.
Trying to what?
Buy a gun.
Well, you know, you're bringing up a situation that probably shouldn't be discussed too much right now. We could let a little time go by, but it's okay if you feel that that's an appropriate question, even though we're the heart of South Korea. I will certainly answer your question. If you did what you're suggesting, there would have been no difference 3 days ago, and you might not have had that very brave person who happened to have a gun or a rifle in his truck go out and shoot him and hit him and neutralize him. And I can only say this: if he didn't have a gun, instead of having 26 dead, he would have had hundreds more dead. So that's the way I feel about it.
And are you
not going to help?
And are you considering any kind of gun control policy going forward?
When you look at the city with the strongest gun laws in our nation is Chicago. And Chicago is a disaster. It's a total disaster. Just remember, if this man didn't have a gun or a rifle, you'd be talking about a much worse situation in the great state of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you.
What? Okay. Let me just say this, just kind of very basic here. When you're the president of the United States, you're the president 24/7. Doesn't matter if you're in South Korea, doesn't matter if you're in Ireland, doesn't matter if you're on your golf course in Scotland, doesn't matter. You're the president of the United States at all times. So there's no such thing as, well, we're in South Korea, so I don't know why you're asking that question. South Korea, that's what he just said. This shows you the ineptness of the person who is in that office. But he also lied again for the second consecutive day. No one was firing back inside of the church. Am I correct?
You're Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
His next door neighbor.
No one was firing inside of the church. They chased him after he left the church. He also said in the soundbite, We shouldn't be talking about this now until we get more information. How about you get more information? You know, call law enforcement. The phones work in South Korea. Go to our panel. I love it how again, the guy who ran over 8 people in New York is an animal. Oh, we got to be quick. We got to have justice. But a white domestic terrorist shoots and kills 26 people in a church. And all I keep hearing from Speaker Paul Ryan is we should pray. They were praying. And they were killed praying.
That's because our country allows white male rage. That is unequivocal. We have data to support that. We define acts of violence by individuals who are of the Muslim faith who kill people by a truck than white men with guns. That is a fact. Furthermore, he talks about mental illness. It's not an issue about mental illness. It doesn't stand alone. It's not isolated incident, but he rolled back a gun regulation that spoke to mental illness. So if it was about that, you wouldn't have rolled that regulation back in February.
And the White House does not want to deal with the Federal Health Exchange and the Affordable Care Act that deals with mental illness. So please don't talk to me about mental illness when you've done nothing about mental illness.
But Brother Roland, let's look at it. First, the FBI says that terrorism is something that is politically motivated, and it's an act of coercion that you use that violence is used for coercion. That's why they said that incident in Manhattan was terrorism, whereas for this incident is not considered terrorism if you look at the FBI's definition. The other part of this is, look, how come the conversation about when we have incidences like this, the conversations about mental health and gun control? When Gerard shoots Rashad in the street, we ain't even talking about access to guns. We're not talking about the mental health of Gerard. We're talking about policing. We're talking about stiffening juvenile justice policies. We're talking about getting those dudes off the streets.
Because white male rage is acceptable.
So the narratives has to change, and it has to be culturally oriented, because you cannot make a gun control policy across the board and then not consider the communities that that are impacted the most by violence.
Sure, Michael.
I mean, look, I think just to sort of step away from some of the wedge issues and hyperbolic rhetoric about this conversation, I don't think anyone can deny that we have to start looking at reforming some gun policies here. I'm a conservative. I'm an avid gun person, but I think in instances like this guy should not have been able to get a gun. And we've seen this pattern consistently, and we see these numbers increase. And so what that tells me, as far as legislators are concerned, they have to begin to look at the process. They have to begin to figure out where are there holes that exist, and can we pass legislation to patch them over so that we can prevent further issues like this. You know where the holes exist?
Look at the latest Political article when it talks about how the NRA has given the Republicans over $5 million, and that some of the top Republicans, Paul Ryan and whatnot, has gotten over $171,000 from NRA groups and gun control and gun rights advocates.
That's lobbying.
My point is saying that the conversation about gun control is not going to happen because the people that we're trying to have a conversation about are not are pushing their agenda. Right now, the Center for
look. Like, for instance, let me give a perfect example. So, perfect example. So, you look at, and this is an article that came from September on Politico. Shall I go to my iPad? GOP lawmaker pushes gun silencer bill. This is what's crazy. So his argument was, oh well, you know, we got hunters, and so it's to bring down the island on the noise. A silencer, a silencer. And I'm going.
Need that to hunt.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm sorry. If the damn animal hears you shooting, okay, but I don't want more Americans with silencers.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think that's.
And the only reason this bill wasn't voted on is because the white domestic terrorist, Devin Patrick, gunned down 50 people and injured 500 more in Las Vegas, and still nothing. And that was pulled, but only short term.
Where did that go?
I mean, it's this type of illogical legislation that I think the American people have to be a part and aggressive on, calling members of Congress and saying these things do not make logical sense. As someone who shoots a lot of guns, you don't need a silencer when you're hunting.
This bill
There's no need for that.
This bill had 160 co-sponsors.
I don't doubt it. I mean, the NRA is a major lobbying firm here in this town, and they do put a lot of money behind candidates. And again, they don't exist in a vacuum outside of other organizations that lobby members of Congress.
Silencers. All right, y'all. Again, America, I've said it again, and this is the reality. This nation has a disease. The disease is its addiction to guns. America was founded at the end of a barrel. This nation loves guns. And so, guess what? As long as they keep loving guns, we're going to see this here. So I don't want to hear anybody talk about Chicago or talk about Baltimore if you don't want to deal with white domestic terrorists who are blowing folks away in churches or at concerts in Vegas or at high schools like Columbine. And here's what's so crazy. Do you realize that Columbine is no longer even in the top 5 of massacres we've had in this country because of what's happened in the last 5 years?
Come on.
That tells you how sick this country is.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.